Good morning, everyone. Today is the first day that I'm going to be starting the audio upgrade in my 2018 Jaguar F-type R. There is going to be 3, possibly 4 stages in this upgrade. And what I'm going to be working on today is taking off the door panels off each side, the driver and passenger side, these door panels, removing the existing 3 speakers. So there's 3 speakers in this system. It's a 3-way. So we got a tweeter, and in here is the mid-range, and then down there is actually subwoofers in this car. So they're pretty big speakers, and they provide all the bass in the car. So we're going to be taking off the door panels, and then we're going to be treating the entire door to sound deadening. So this will stop rattles, will keep all the sound within the contained area here, and definitely improve the sound from the bass from the lower side of the spectrum, and possibly or most likely have to make some speaker rings to make the speakers actually fit into the existing speakers places. So this is going to be the start of it today. The other 2 stages are going to be essentially taking the digital signal from the head unit, so where the main control is, where I control all my audio and navigation and all that stuff. The screen right over there. We're going to take that digital signal, bring it down to the back of the car, into the trunk, so through the convertible top and then into the trunk, and basically getting all the wires set up for speakers and power and all that, and getting the amp set up. And then the 3rd stage is going to be tuning the system. So I'll bring out my RTA, real-time analyzer, I'll bring out my special mics, and I'll make sure that this is the most optimal sound by using equipment. And the last possible optional stage is to actually add some subwoofers. It's hard to see in here, but to add some subwoofers down at the bottom there, maybe a couple of 8-inch slimline, which I have, just to add a little bit more bass for when the top is down. When the top is down and I'm driving, and there's a lot of road noise and it's loud, just to get a little bit more volume out of the bass. So that's an optional step. I want to see how it all works out with the speakers that I'm putting here, and then I'll kind of judge from that point and then go forward. So I think this is based on the speed I work. This is going to be a full day to do both sides of the doors, and my anticipation is to do the stage 2 tomorrow. Possibly have some sound in this car this weekend. That would be great. I will be taking pictures and videos of each step of the way, because there is not a lot of information on this car. Not a lot of people have done what I'm doing to this specific car. So maybe use as a tutorial or a guide or something to help maybe some of the other F-type owners to do the same thing. I'll be going over the equipment, what equipment I'm putting in there, and obviously giving my opinion along the way. So I'll be back shortly with some video of what's inside the door and some pictures of what we're doing, and we'll take it from there. Some of the tools I will be using today to take off the door panels and to put in the sound deadening and replace the speakers with the new speakers. So as you can see here, I have a panel removal set. This is really important. They're really cheap. You should get one. It stops you from scratching the car. It's all the proper tools that you need to remove a panel properly. This is what they use in your dealer's shop when they remove panels from your car. I have a pick, so the pick will be to just get off little. There's a little trim plate that's behind the door handle, so that'll be used to pick that out. A torque. Actually, I'll just go along the line here. So a utility knife, 2 utility knives, small and big. I've put fresh blades in there, so it's nice and sharp. Some torque, so T20 and a T30 specifically for this car. And this will allow me to take out the screws that are holding in the door panel. Some scissors, definitely some scissors. The battery is for my test bench, just in case you're curious. And then, of course, we are going to use the Focal sound deadening. This is kind of a hybrid material, so there's 2 layers to this. Well, 3 layers. There's the bottom layer, which is the adhesive layer that sticks to everything. Then there's a metal layer, which essentially prevents the sound from going through any of the top layer and kind of stops it right there. It stops a lot of the rattles and the resonance and the bouncing from the sound from the speakers off the door. And then the top layer is going to be a foam layer, and this is really what sort of deadens that sound. And this is the difference between hearing a lot of noise in the door. It'll also help with road noise. This car, the Jaguar, is very, very loud. Aside from the amazing exhaust system that's loud on this car, there's a lot of road noise. So this will actually cut down a lot of that, putting in the door, but most importantly, we're focused on the sound of the sound system and the audio. So that'll help with that. So once again, more videos to come. So the first thing that we always do is disconnect the ground. Ground's pretty tight in there. I had to put a cloth to stop it from touching again. But this would avoid any accidental airbag deployment, and I'll show you in a second. There's actually a sensor in the door for that, so you don't want to hit that. So I have protected my corners because I'm working in such a tight place here. There's a wall right there, and I got the door panel off. It took all of 5 minutes. Just move this to the side for now. It took all of 5 minutes or so. So there's the door panel. There's really, it's pretty straightforward. There's an insert in here. This whole piece right here is an insert. I'm going to be removing that to get to the other side of the door. There's the subwoofer. The tweeter and the mid-range are going to be on this door panel right here. Once again, quite tight in here. I do wish I had a bigger workspace today, but it wasn't available. So we'll just take a quick look. In here, there's the mid-range, and up at the top, there's the tweeter. This will make a pretty straightforward, pretty easy install. I can already see, with the subwoofer, I can already see that I'm definitely going to have to use some wood and a router to copy this this speaker outline, the plastic enclosure, and make the new rings out of that. I will come back once I've done a little bit more work. We're going to start with the sound deadening. Okay, so we've deadened the inside of the door. It's, I would say, about 98-99% of the inside of the door. This stuff does a really good job, and it's going to definitely deaden the sound in there and improve the lower response. So the next step here is to refasten this middle piece and start deadening the outside of the door. I'll be back with more videos. So I've completed deadening the outside of the door, which is the inside of the panel. It's not the cleanest, but it's inside. And once again, about 98% of this is done. I've done behind wires, so wires don't rattle when the bass is booming in this car. And it's definitely going to be sufficient for the job here. You'll notice that I left the area around the subwoofer non-deadened, and that's because when I build the speaker adapters to put my speaker in here, I will deaden around the wood, the speaker adapter, underneath it and on top of it, and that'll create also a seal around the subwoofer, around near the subwoofer frame. So that's it for this video. The next step is going to be making the speaker adapters and doing all the speaker swaps and wiring for this driver's side door. And then it all gets repeated on the passenger side door. I'll be back. Okay, let's discuss our first challenge here. Over on the left-hand side is the stock subwoofer. It uses a different sort of engineering technology, whereas it kind of shoots backwards. This is typically where you'd see the magnets. Magnet is actually in there, and then it also shoots forward as well. This is kind of your typical. On the right-hand side is the sub that I'm putting in there. It's a 9-inch sub, actually 8 3/4, but I believe it's 9 around. I'll do some measurements. And this is your typical sub where you have your frame, and then there's your magnet. So the first challenge is, which is pretty easily worked around, is the outer circumference here doesn't fit into the door directly. So it's a little bit bigger than the hole that's actually in the door. So that's easily rectified by building out the speaker adapters, and I will use a 3/4 inch MDF wood, and essentially that'll 3/4 of an inch will bring us down here, and as you could see, if you can, it tapers in. So 3/4 inches should get us into the door, and that'll be fine there. That's sort of typical in some installs. The bigger challenge is that the actual hole placement, which I want to use, I do not want to drill new holes into the door, is a little bit awkward here. So because the speaker is a little bit, the new speaker going in is a little bit bigger than the factory speaker, it doesn't quite line up. It's a little bit bigger around the exterior frame here. So what we need to do is we need to obviously cut a piece of wood that's going to allow for that inner circumference there, and then a big enough piece that would kind of allow it to be bigger around there without having any gaps within the car, and then keeping the factory screw holes. So what I'll do here is I'll go into my workshop and I will come up with a plan. Once again, once I do this, it'll be ×2 so that it'll fit both doors. It'll allow me to do both doors. I can do that at once, so that's pretty quick. Once I get the first speaker adapter done, I can just copy that piece with my router and do the second piece. So I will take a video of what I've done to fix this and to get around this challenge. I'll be back. So after some real dust flying in my face, because I don't have my dust system set up during the winter, I have created the speaker adapters to go into the doors. This is what they look like. From the factory speakers, I'm not sure if you could see any lines on here, but it was definitely much thinner. Now this will encompass the new speakers, and let's see if I can do this with one hand, but essentially they fit perfectly in there like so. So I have used something called a Forstner bit, which is a kind of drill bit that allows me to countersink a little bit. So the screw that goes with the car, the screws that they're slightly under the lip of the speaker when I have this ring around. So I had to countersink these with the Forstner bit, and Now they'll sink right in, and we'll screw, it'll be underneath here. We'll wrap these up in sound deadening material all the way around, and then give the speaker a nice seal. So we are ready to install the subwoofer. All right, so the subwoofers or mid-bass are installed in the car, and the next portion we need to do here is to install the mids and the highs. So there's a few things that I'm going to need to check first. The first thing is I need to make sure that the mids and the highs are on completely separate amps coming out from the factory amp, that there's not like a capacitor or something that's basically blocking out the lower frequencies from this. So this way, when I go to connect the amplifier and the crossovers, sorry, to this, that they're on their own channels, they're doing their own thing. If they are not that way, and there's only one input to both of these speakers, then that means I'm going to have to put the crossovers somewhere inside these door panels here, and that might be tricky as they're pretty large. And got to find some space for them. So I'm going to do that now. The other thing is when I built the subwoofers and the ring, the speaker adapter ring, this piece of plastic is actually impeding with the speaker. It's touching the speaker, can't have that. I didn't want to touch anything in the car. I want to keep everything perfectly stock. But based on the depth of that subwoofer, based on the depth of the speaker ring and everything that we're dealing with, I'm going to have to trim this down. It's pretty flimsy, cheap plastic, but it's something that I'm going to have to do in order to get this to not touch the subwoofer. So I will be back with more videos later. Okay, so what we've done is we've removed the stock tweeter and put in the new tweeter in here, and I've just used glue. It's very secure in here. It's a heat. It's got the glue that I use is a little bit special. It's better for heat, so when it's sitting out in the hot sun, it's not going to melt off or pop off. We also trimmed the lip ring that was around here so that the door panel fits back on where the subwoofer is, and it doesn't impede with the new subwoofer that's in there. So this is good here. Ran into a challenge with the existing mid-range. So this is the mid-range here. I think it goes this way. Goes this way here, and as you can see, it kind of sits. It sits these screw holes. It's kind of goes into the hole there, and it's screwed in kind of odd. So I had to replicate these pieces. So I actually did that a little bit tricky with these new mids that are going in, as they don't have a lip around them to really screw into like typical mid-range. So we did create this. It's not the nicest looking piece in the world, but it is functional, and it does its thing. It will just kind of fit in place here like this. Just put it in there. It fits nicely in there. And then the new mid-range just fits right in here and slides right in there. It's about the same height that's sticking out from the factory or the OEM mid-range, so we're not worried about this pouncing against the inside of the door. And it'll stick in with some very small screws here. The factory screws that go into the from the original, and we're just going to put a little bit of seal around the outer rim here, so the seal will just make sure that there's no sound coming out from the sides, and that all the sound is directly going through the grill in the front of the panel here. So almost done here. This is good, and I'll be back. Here's just a quick shot of the subwoofer in the door there. Just got to tie wrap that one wire, and we are ready to put the door panel back on, and let's hope that everything fits nicely and snug and the way it came out, and I'll be back soon.